Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, thank you for being with us today. We're talking all about things that are important relating to your retirement, so stay tuned for a fun and exciting episode today. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Excited about today's show. It's going to be awesome.
Me too. I'm very excited. And Kristen, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. I thought it'd be fun to start with a fun fact that maybe a lot of people don't know. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. So Ohio is the only state that has an official rock song, and it's called Hang On Sloopy. Burt Burns and Wes Farrell co-wrote this song, which became a significant hit for the band The McCoys back in 1965. But what's the Ohio connection? The McCoys were originally from Dayton, Ohio. I have a confession to make. All my life, I thought the song was Hang On Snoopy.
Okay, so my sister, I'm from Cleveland originally, my sister thought it was too.
Oh, good.
So we had this conversation not too long ago, and there's actually another Ohio connection. Do you know what a Sloopy is?
A Sloopy?
Yes.
I do
because
not.
you said you thought it was Snoopy, right?
I did.
So she
What's
was
a Sloopy?
asking me, what is a Sloopy? So I looked it up. So Dorothy Sloop was a jazz singer in Steubenville. And so she would perform in bars and places around Ohio, actually, not just in Steubenville. But she was in a bar once that was really loud, and someone yelled, "Hang on, Sloopy," when she was waiting to perform because it was too loud. And so that stuck. They started calling her Sloopy. That's where the name came from.
That's interesting.
That's what they
so
say.
So the whole song is, okay. I like my version better.
Yes.
Yeah. And every OSU game you go to, the pet band will at some point in the game play Hang On Sloopy. So I took Jaden to his first Buckeye game at the Shoe when he was 3 years old.
Okay.
And one of the highlights for me anyway because everyone knows, I think, that I was a band nerd. And so now I'm just a nerd. But back then,
you are my nerd.
Back then I was a band nerd.
Yeah.
And so I love going before the game and getting there early enough to see the band come out of the tunnel, go through their whole routine, watch the drum major, go to the 50-yard line, go all the way backwards and touch the plume on the turf and all the things. So Jaden at that age, whenever he would hear music, his little dance was he would throw his little elbows up like this.
Aww.
So the band during the game starts playing Hang On Sloopy, and he's going like
Dancing
this.
away.
And everybody all around is just watching Jaden having the ball, having the greatest time.
Did you
Oh
rehearse
my
that dance before we did the show today?
I did not.
Okay.
It probably looked like it too.
It's rough, but that's as good as it gets, folks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that's adorable. And what'd you say? You were a band nerd, now you're just a nerd?
Yes.
So my daughter said, "Mom, you're hip." I said, "No, I'm hip replacement." I mean, you got to learn when to segue into.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, we joke about these things and games, and of course Ohio is chock full of activities and things to do, but for the middle class, it's getting harder to have those experiences with young kids because costs have just gotten so much higher.
And Kristen, I'm so glad that you brought that up because we're finding out that right now, on average, middle class is about $80,000 a year. And although $80,000 a year is not anything to balk at,
right.
The question is, how can someone make $80,000 a year stretch and be sufficient for everything that they need to do?
Well, the simple plan is you need a plan.
Okay.
Or the simple answer, I should say, is you need a plan. And so there's a few things that get you to that point. Over the years, we've met with what we like to call middle-class millionaires,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have lived their entire life under that threshold of $80,000 per year, but yet they've come up with the incredible accomplishment, if you will, of saving $1 million or more in their retirement accounts, which is really, for anybody, is an incredible accomplishment. And so, there's a common theme amongst all those middle-class millionaires that we've seen. They've worked really, really hard. They maybe increased their income in little increments over the years, but they've been really diligent about saving those dollars aside from their living expenses. So along that same vein, they've lived below their means. And that's vital in saving enough money for retirement, is not keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, no
And
matter
I
what
love
your
that you
income.
say that. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Greg, to interrupt you, but that's what Warren Buffett has always
Yes.
said. Live beneath your means. And we've all heard stories about
Yes.
janitors that have saved like $1 million, which
Making
is phenomenal.
40, 50,000 a year, right?
Yes.
And they've all been efficient or understood the effectiveness of being efficient with taxes.
Yes.
Those are 3 common things that we've seen amongst the people that have done really well, who have been considered to be middle class.
Yes.
Yes, but not everybody, Cynthia, that's watching has saved $1 million. And I'm thinking about a family that Brent met with last year, and it was a couple in their mid-60s. They had saved $450,000, and between the two of them, they never made more than $70,000 a year. So $450,000 I thought was quite an accomplishment, really.
Absolutely.
Here was the issue. Between both their Social Security and one of them had a small pension, they were going to need an additional $20,000 a year to maintain the way they wanted to live in retirement. So they came in, and to be honest, they were a little scared. You know, they asked Brent, have we done enough? You know, we wanted to save more, but, you know, life happened and, you know, things went on and we weren't able to save more. Have we done enough to where we can actually retire? Because they were about a year out. And Brent went through the numbers. He did all the proper things. He went through and he tested what they were currently doing. Then, well, before even any of that, he wanted to understand exactly what it was they were trying to achieve. What was really on their heart for retirement? What was really important to them? Then he tested and found out, yeah, there were some shortcomings in their plan. They had a lot more risk than they were comfortable with. They had no plan for income. They were really worried they were going to outlive their money in retirement. That was a big concern for them. So the plan was to put together a situation where they have enough income. So Brent set aside about $250,000 in their income plan, which was going to generate that $20,000 a year of predictable income for them. So of the $450,000, $250,000 went into their income plan. Now that left $200,000 left for their growth plan. And Brent helped set up a plan for them that would give them, would help get them more consistent growth over time. That was the whole purpose of the plan. But really the purpose of the plan was to get them from retiring in a year to now being able to retire and not, first of all, not worried about outliving their money because they had income that was going to last, having a plan for consistency, and now being able to do the things they wanted to do. So what is a plan anyway? What are the elements of a plan? Well, first of all, your goals. So before, if you're thinking about meeting with someone or you're concerned about, do I have a written plan? Do I have a plan at all? It starts with your goals. What is it that you actually want to achieve? And sometimes I feel like, Cynthia, people are so worried they're going to outlive their money that they don't dream big enough. They don't think about, well, I'd really like to, whatever that is, go on a beach vacation every year. Or some people it's travel to Europe. Some people it's take the grandkids to Disney World. I mean, everybody has different ideas. Got some folks, they go on a golf trip with their buddies every year, and that's really important. So whatever that is, verbalizing it, then visualizing it, having a plan that lets you visualize that dream. It's so important. So it's your goals.
Yep.
Then it's understanding the principles necessary to reach your goals. And that is, first of all, at this point in life, no investment decisions you make should ever be made without the context of your plan. The plan should determine where you put your money. If you don't understand why you're doing it, don't do it.
And I want to unpack that even a little bit further if we could, because to our viewers at home, in case you're wondering, well, I have a plan, aren't those the statements that I pull out of my mailbox? That is not a plan. That's just a number. That doesn't tell you anything about where you can spend, what you should do. Talk about the difference between that, Greg, if you don't mind.
Right. All it is the elements of a plan. Just like a 401k is not a plan. Having an advisor is not a plan necessarily. Just some random number that says this percentage chance of not outliving your money. That's not really a plan either, because how much confidence does that actually give you? If the pilot said there's about an 80% chance we'll make it, to California on the trip, I'm not getting on that plane.
Don't say that right now.
Oh,
There's too many things going on.
Yeah,
but
that's true. So ultimately, all we're trying to do is give people confidence. That's it. And the plan does that. Understand the fundamental shift. Understand how money works differently when you're taking it out versus when you're accumulating it, and then the 3-bucket approach, understanding you need some money liquid, you need some money dedicated for income, you need some money dedicated for growth. And if you have those 4 elements, now you know you can retire with confidence.
Well, I think we should let people have the opportunity to do that. What do you think?
Absolutely.
To our viewers at home, there's a number for you to call on your screen, 614-336-7660. If you're in the viewing audience today and you're asking yourself, do I have a plan for my retirement? Do I have a plan that I'm going to know where my income is going to come from, what my expenses will be? What about my tax obligations? What about long-term care, health care? You should have all of these things factored into a plan. But where do you go? How do you do that? You pick up the phone and call in today. That number is 614-336-7660, or you can grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Legacy Retirement Group, and you can claim your time accordingly. Remember, you've worked your entire life to get to the retirement years. You deserve to have peace of mind. You deserve to have the retirement of your dreams. We'll be right back momentarily.
Living a life is building a legacy. A legacy of milestones. Your first home. Raising your children. Becoming grandparents. And memories. From the first steps across the living room floor to the walk down the aisle. At every stage, your family is the most important part of your life, and you want to protect them. Now and in the future. Which is why the decisions you make today are so important. You've worked hard to provide a better life for your loved ones. Now is the time to make sure that lasts. Build a legacy that will influence generations to come. Plan smart. Retire well with Legacy Retirement Group.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're talking about how to plan for your perfect retirement years. This is a very interesting study. This was actually by Pew Research Center, if you will. The middle class, which constitutes 50% of the U.S. population, is considered by many to be the driving force of the American economic growth and prosperity. But according to this research study, the middle class has been shrinking over the past 5 decades, Where are they going? What's happening?
Well, some of them are going down and some of them are going up. So higher cost of living has contributed to more people leaving the middle class and unfortunately going towards the lower class because they just don't have the funds available to live at such high cost of living that we have now over the last 50 years. But also the middle class, some of them have graduated up, for I guess a lack of better terms, to the upper class because of just the onset of more opportunities, more businesses being built, and things of that nature, more growth in their investment accounts over those decades of time. So it's kind of stolen a little bit off each side and made the middle class a smaller amount of people.
And when we say upper class or lower class, what we're saying is...
It's a horrible term,
it is. Higher income or lower income.
Yes, I was trying to find another way to say it. Yeah.
Because there's so many people right now that are working more like entry-level, hourly type jobs, which don't produce, $70,000 or $80,000 a year of income. And so we've run into that dynamic, and that's so difficult, really. It's hard because, the middle class forever was known for working hard, the
backbone of the country.
The American dream.
Absolutely.
The American dream. My mom and dad, middle class.
Yes.
I grew up middle class.
Yeah.
Both my parents worked hard. Mom was a nurse at Grant Hospital for many years. My dad worked for International Harvester, which was later Navistar, worked in a factory. So that's what mom and dad did, and they worked hard. And they were able to live the American dream. They bought the house, and I would say that my mom and dad were very sacrificial. They would do without to give to us. And that was kind of their generation, really.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about a couple we work with. They lived in a neighborhood where I grew up. I think they paid maybe $30,000 or $40,000 for their house. They together made no more than $85,000 a year. When they came to visit us, they had saved over $2 million. Wow. So it is very, very possible to do that for through just a whole host of things that were important to them. They were dedicated. They stayed at it. They did all those things. So they were the middle class millionaires.
Well, and I would say that this segment's for two different families, right? For you watching that are working really hard. I mean, we get calls all the time from the younger side, you know, the 30, 40, 50-year-old that's not looking to retire anytime soon, but you are trying to think of ways and pick up little tidbits of information in order to get you to the point where you can retire, right?
Absolutely.
So from that aspect, I think one of the things I pointed out in the first segment was, you know, the people like the family you're talking about, you know, as they increase their earnings, they increase their savings, right? They live below their means and they're optimizing their taxes constantly. Those are the things that I know exactly who you're talking about. Those are the things that those people did. But for the viewer that's sitting at home right now and you're thinking, okay, I'm getting close to retirement. I've only got a couple more years left in me. What does this mean for me? Well, I think the main takeaway, if you will, the nugget you should take away from this conversation is that there are so many different families that we work with and so many different success stories. It doesn't necessarily matter if you saved $1 million or you saved $500,000 or maybe even, I think we gave an example recently of a family that called in that saved over $5 million. It's a matter of what's important to you about those dollars you saved and what things do you want to do with those dollars you saved. And as you were talking earlier, I was thinking of a lady I met with earlier, and when we sat down and talked, she actually had only saved about $300,000 from her working years as a teacher.
Okay.
But she inherited a large sum of money from her parents, which made her a middle-class millionaire.
Okay.
And so as she was kind of talking about the things she did, she said, you know, I haven't changed my lifestyle at all. I really still do the same things. I love volunteering. I love finding free activities to do. That fulfills me for my retirement, and that's what I just want to continue doing. You know, when we were talking about what was important to her about those dollars, and if she needed more income, she's like, really, I just want to give a lot of it to charity while I'm living. I want to be able to see my dollars at work. I don't want to wait till I'm gone and I can't enjoy the benefit of knowing that I helped somebody. And I said, well, that's your goal. Everybody's goals is different. And then our job is to kind of see what makes sense moving forward to help you achieve those goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, Cynthia, it starts with a conversation.
Yes.
So some people go to legacyretirementgroup.com and they hit our Calendly and they go right from the comfort of their home. They don't have to pick up the phone or anything. They can schedule a time to simply have a conversation. Some people go to our phone number, 614-336-7660, and they call and we set up a time to start a conversation. That's really what it's all about, because the conversation will lead down the path that it needs to go. So first of all, what do? You just tell us your story. That's it. We don't need to know everything. Just tell us your story, because we don't know where we can help unless we know where you want to go. Then we test to see if there's anything slipping through the cracks. And that's whether it be with risk, whether it be with income, whether it be with taxes or healthcare or whatever we leave behind to those we love. So important, so important. Then, if we do see something slipping through the cracks, we show you how we can help and give you a clear path to getting from where you are to where you want to be.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, as you can clearly see, it all starts with a conversation. If you have questions about how to plan your perfect retirement, or perhaps questions how to leave a legacy behind to loved ones, this is the perfect time for you to call in and take advantage of that complimentary consultation. That number is 614-336-7660. Or if you're just rushing out the door, you can grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That'll take you right to the landing page of Legacy Retirement Group, and you can claim your spot accordingly. Remember, it's no obligation, completely complimentary, and it all starts with a conversation. Greg, Kristen, and the team, they want to get to know you one-on-one and let them develop a plan that's going to best suit your retirement years. Don't you deserve it? We think you do. You've worked your entire life to get here. Once again, 614-336-7660. We'll be right back after this very short commercial break.
Have you been wondering if a Roth conversion is a good idea? Do you feel a lack of confidence in Washington when it comes to future taxes during your retirement years? You should probably visit testmyretirement.com. It's Legacy Retirement Group's latest no-cost resource for soon-to-be and current retirees. TestMyRetirement.com is super simple to navigate. After clicking on Learn More, you'll fill in a few pieces of information, and within 30 seconds, you'll see a personalized analysis of your total potential taxes in retirement using your existing approach, compared to what's possible with some adjustments. Every situation is different, but if you don't want to be in debt to Uncle Sam, go to testmyretirement.com to find out if you can possibly reduce your future retirement obligations. Get started now at testmyretirement.com.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're talking all about how to plan your perfect retirement. In this segment, I'd love to spend a little bit of time talking about how many in the middle class often feel that they're paying a disproportionate share of a nation's tax burden. So overall, how can people make sure that they're paying their fair share of retirement dollars and not too much? Their fair share. I'm always thinking of remember Lucy on Snoopy when she said, "I just want my fair share."
Yes.
That's it. He always refers to that quote.
Yeah, I love
do.
it.
I just want my fair share, baby.
Yeah, he tells me that all the time.
I love that.
So, but I think when you talk about retirement, especially financial side of retirement, it's such a comparison game with everything we see. And of course, over the years that we've been doing this, I've been doing it almost 20 years now, and Greg over 35 years, we see different vulnerabilities there, right? And when people are talking, and one of the biggest things that gets people upset is the tax conversation. We talk about it a lot because it's one of the biggest concerns, but it's also one of the areas that upsets people, especially this middle class that we're talking about right now, because they're such hard workers, and and so much of their proportion of their dollars go to taxes. But you know what's interesting? I looked up, the top 10% actually account for 70% of the federal tax dollars.
The top 10%.
So actually,
okay.
so actually the top income earners would be the ones paying the most on that side of the ticket. It doesn't feel like that, but those are the stats.
Okay.
Now, for payroll taxes, that's where the middle class pays the majority, because with Social Security, you're paying about 6.25%, tax, and then for Medicare taxes, it's 1.45, but that's up to a limit, an income limit. So that's where the middle class will take over, paying the bigger proportion of those tax dollars.
Interesting.
Yes, and you have to understand, okay, what are the tax brackets? Well, there's the 10% bracket, there's the 12% bracket, there's the 22% bracket, there's the 24% bracket, there's the 32% bracket, the 35%, and then the 37% is the highest federal income tax bracket. So there are some people, high income earners, earning over $700,000 a year, that are paying 37% of that income to Uncle Sam. Now, proportionately, a couple that earns $110,000 a year with their standard deduction is in the 12% tax bracket. So really, they're paying 12% where some people are paying 37%. That's not the same. It's a big difference in the percentage, right? Now, it's categorically. In other words, you pay 10% on some, then you pay 12% on some, then you pay 22% on some, and so it's like a funnel. The higher up you go in the funnel, the higher the cost. Now, as Kristen said, yes, there's that, but when we really dig into planning for all this, because we don't want anybody to feel like they're not getting their fair share or things can't work out for them. So part of it is getting into the weeds. Now, this is where, we really can make a difference for people. On the show, I don't get into the weeds a whole lot because it's not very good TV. To be honest, it would be boring. I'd be putting people to sleep.
I'd be asleep on the.
Exactly.
Now, you don't see this watching, but sometimes I do kick him, because if I catch myself kind of zoning, I'm like, all right, Greg, move on.
Yes. Yep. Get that train back on the tracks.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
So I was meeting with this couple here recently, and at our first meeting, they told their story. We had the conversation. And they told me some things that were vital, and I wrote them all down. And so they said, hey, when we retire, first of all, we want to be able to retire in 3 years. That's number one.
That's important.
Yes. Second of all, when we retire, we want to be able to keep our current home, buy a Class A diesel motorhome, travel the country. The husband's telling me this. The wife adds in, and bring the grandkids. So grandkids are vitally important. Travel is vitally important. Retiring in 3 years is vitally important. So when we're having that second meeting, and I'm sitting down with them, and I said, okay, we're about to get into the weeds, meaning we're going to talk about things like alpha. You say, what in the world is alpha? Well, alpha really describes how a portfolio is doing and whether or not they're getting bang for their risk buck. In other words, it's going to say, okay, you've got this much risk in your portfolio, but it's overshadowing the returns you're getting, and that would be a negative alpha. When the return is overshadowing the risk, then it's a positive alpha. I said, so we want to see how well you're doing with alpha. So we dug in the weeds with that. We want to understand where you are with your Sharpe ratio. Why is that important? Because it's going to tell us how efficient you are overall between risk and return. And we're going to look at drawdown, the amount of losses you can have in a certain time period. So these are all vital pieces of information. And I said, the reason this is vital, because we need to understand whether or not you're going to be able to retire in 3 years, buy the Class A motorhome, and take the grandkids. That's why it's vital. And so all of a sudden, they were sitting up and they're on the edge of their seat because they're interested in learning about this, not because they care whatsoever about alpha, but they care about the grandkids, they care about the travel, and they care about being able to retire in 3 years. And honestly,
that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. I could care less about the weeds, except the weeds expose when there's cracks in the plan.
Yes, and then it gives you time to fix them.
Now we can fix them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, if you're unsure if you have cracks and weeds in your retirement plan, this is the perfect opportunity to find out today by calling in and booking that complimentary consultation, no obligation whatsoever. 614-336-7660 or click on the QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today. Take care now.